Yo, what is up, guys? Today is July 22nd. I'm in a different location than I typically am. I just wanted to switch things up, keep things interesting, and rocking the Oklahoma shirt. Probably seen it before. Today, as the title suggests, we're going to talk about monetary policy and choosing your monetary policy and how important this is, or not really important, but like how powerful this is, and how, basically for the first time in human history, this is a possibility because of technology, computers, algorithms, and embedding monetary policy into technologies such as Bitcoin, right? And what do I mean by embedding monetary policy? So those of you familiar with Bitcoin know that there's only 21 million Bitcoin, and those of you even more familiar with Bitcoin will probably know that there is an inflation curve. And what does an inflation curve means is how the money is distributed over time. With Bitcoin, basically every 10 minutes a new block is mined, and this block has a block reward for the miner that distributes a certain amount of Bitcoin. In the early days, this was, I don't know how much, I think maybe it started with like 24 Bitcoin, I don't know. Today, I think we're at 12.5 Bitcoin per block, and what that means in terms of the total money supply is that there is a current inflation rate of about 3.9%. So we have about 80% of the total amount of Bitcoin that's going to ever exist is already in existence, and from that percentage, based off of the new amount of Bitcoin that are being created, this percentage comes to about 33.9%. And I think that the two defining aspects of Bitcoin, or the number one defining aspect of Bitcoin, is definitely the 21 million cap, because for the first time in human history, humans have been able to create a resource that is, definitively scarce. Things such as gold and oil, some other natural resources you could think of, diamonds. These things we like to think of as being extraordinarily scarce, but in reality they're not. It's not that there's not an abundance of gold and oil in this earth. It's just a matter of how much time and resources are we willing to spend into obtaining those resources, and how difficult are those resources to produce. So, historically, because of the difficulty of gold to be able to be produced, that is why it has served as a means or a store of value, and it's had what we know as a good stock to flow ratio. And Bitcoin is the example of a monetary policy that is sort of designed to try to mimic gold in terms of gold's properties and how hard it is to produce. But there's other currencies and monetary policies. If you live in the United States, you use the United States dollar for trade, and the Federal Reserve sets the interest rate, and they are also in charge of printing money. And right now, I believe I most recently heard that the inflation rate of the US dollar is about 6.1 or 6.2%. So based off of how many dollars there are out there, about 6% of the total amount is being produced. Now, I couldn't even tell you how many dollars are in circulation. There's a way to determine this. It's like the M1 through 5 scale or something like that. I don't really keep up with that, but what I do know is that there are trillions of dollars in existence, and I think it's kind of a fool's errand, or it's really just irrelevant how many dollars there are, because what's relevant is that more dollars can always be printed. And so for me, if you think about time as your labor, and money is basically the physical representation of time, and I won't get into that right now, but you want to be able to preserve the effort that you've put, the labor you've put in, and you want to be able to store that labor somewhere. And the dollar has been basically a good place, or a lot of people have savings accounts, and this is where people store their time. I personally store my time in Bitcoin, and this so far has been a wise decision. But there's other cryptocurrencies that I could choose, right? I could choose, say, Stellar, for example, has a different monetary policy that they use. I don't know what their inflation rate is. I really don't know, but there's, I think there's 100 billion or maybe 10 billion Stellar in existence. Steam-backed dollars. Steam is an interesting one. The monetary policy for that is also pretty complex because there's some combination of a cryptocurrency, an inter-platform dollar called Steam dollars, and then also Steam Power. But Steam Power is basically the way that the Steam monetary policy uses their inflation, because they give new Steam. I think 90% of the new Steam that's created is given to those who have Steam Power, which is basically locking up your Steam for a long-term investment. So there's another example of a monetary policy that one could fall into. Ethereum, most recently, or interestingly, I should say, they've had, sort of debates, and there's been a lot of mystery around Ethereum's monetary policy, which I think has weakened, sort of the thesis for Ethereum being a store of value, because initially Vitalik said there's only going to be 100 million billion Ethereum, and it passed that amount, and so now I think the new call is for 120 cap of the amount of Ether that'll be produced. And what I really want to be able to talk about in this video, and this is getting kind of long, so I'm going to just summarize right here, is for the first time, humans have been able, or what I'm trying to say is money has entered into the free market. And what I mean by that is, with fiat currencies, because they work off of decree and enforcement by governments, you don't really get a choice in how things play out, or really the policies of the dollar. But so there's not really a competitive free market for money. But historically, money has emerged out of the free market, which is the reason that gold was, sort of emerged as the store of value, because it was the best. It just beat everything else. It beat silver, it beat cows, it beat tulips, it beat wheat, rice, whatever else has been used, seashells, all these different things. And I think it's an amazing opportunity that humans get to choose right now, for the first time in millennium, that a new form of money is able to be accessed by anyone without permission, with only, internet connection and a cell phone, basically, of minimal powering process ability. And so I personally have chosen to use Bitcoin as the monetary policy that best suits my needs, but I want to encourage everyone, and I guess Steam as well, because that's how I basically earn my Bitcoin, is through the Steam network, or through Steam dollars, and that's how I'm kind of building up my reserve, as well as using some of the fiat money that I earn. I convert each month to Bitcoin as well, and then live off the rest of the fiat. But yeah, I just want you guys to really think about this time that we live in, and make sure that, whether it be you want to put all your money in Steam, or you want to, maybe put it in Ethereum or Bitcoin, think about what the purpose of the monetary policy and the instrument was whenever it was created, and make sure that you're finding a policy that best suits your needs and what you want for a monetary policy. I hope this, was thought-provoking. I hope this brought you a little bit of value. Drop me a comment. Let me know what you think. I'd love to hear from you. Peace.